20 years. Think about that. 20 years of exile, a struggle, of building an entire life under the shadow of a master deceiver. And now, Jacob is finally coming home. But home isn't safe for him. On the horizon, his estranged brother Esau waits, and he's not alone. He has 400 men with him. I mean, this is a moment of just absolute peril, a confrontation that could literally extinguish the future of a nation before it even has a chance to begin. And right here, in this crucible of fear and anticipation, Jacob makes his first move, and it's not what you'd expect. It's not a plea for mercy, it's not a negotiation, it's a message, a weapon, really, disguised as a simple report.
I'm a Lavan Garti. With Laban I have sojourned. Just 5 little words in the original Hebrew. Now, on the surface, it sounds like a pretty basic update, right? But as we're about to see, beneath that simple surface lies an incredibly sophisticated strategy. We're talking about a piece of cosmic psychological warfare designed to disarm a massive physical threat before a single sword is even drawn. Okay, let's really dive into this, because this sentence holds the key to the entire encounter.
I want you to picture the scene with me. Just imagine it. It's night in the desert. The air is cold and carries that smell of dust and pure tension. You've got a single campfire throwing these long, dancing shadows against the tents of Jacob's camp, his wives, his children, his entire life's work, all of it just completely vulnerable under a blanket of stars. The desert wind is whispering, and you know every little rustle sounds like an approaching enemy. And right in the center of this fragile circle of light, Jacob gathers his most trusted messengers. You can see their faces lit up by the flames, leaning in so close as he speaks. And he's not shouting, he's using this focused, strategic whisper. See, he isn't just sending a message, he's crafting a shield. He's forging a spiritual credential in the fires of his last 2 decades.
And out there, in that oppressive darkness just beyond their little fire, they can almost feel it. A pulsing, red glow on the horizon, the collective energy of Esau's war party. Now this isn't just an army, it's a raw force of nature. It's the Koach, the untamed power of red-hot anger, of pure brute strength, of a reckoning that's been brewing for 20 years. It's the physical embodiment of confrontation, a tidal wave of just pure, unbridled might. This is the energy Jacob is staring down.
So what do you do when you're faced with that kind of overwhelming force? Well, the conventional answer is you either meet force with force or you beg for mercy. Jacob does neither. He understands something profound. You don't fight a fire with fire when your opponent controls the flame. No, you reframe the entire battle. The message he whispers to his messengers under those desert stars isn't about appeasement at all. It is a calculated broadcast, a strategic demonstration of a different and, frankly, a far more potent kind of power. And understanding this strategy, this weapon of consciousness, well, that's our mission today.
To really decode this message, we're going to use the ancient 4-level framework of Pardes, which literally means orchard. So we'll start at the gate with the simple meaning, the pshat. Then we're going to walk the paths of the allegorical story, the drash, and finally, we will enter the orchard's deepest, most hidden secret, the sod, to understand the cosmic mechanics at play. We're going to map out this Sephirotic battlefield and discover how this ancient message can become an incredibly powerful tool in our own lives today.
Okay, so let's start at the surface. Pshat, the plain, literal meaning. Im Lavan Garti, with Laban I have sojourned. You know, as a simple statement of fact, it's just an update. Jacob is basically informing Esau, hey, it's been 20 years. Just so you know, I've been living with our uncle Laban in Haran. I'm not some wandering vagrant. I have been established. I've got a household. I have wealth. It just sets a baseline of information. It's factual, it's seemingly harmless, and it really has this air of normalcy. But this is just the Trojan horse, isn't it? Beautifully carved, totally non-threatening, but carrying a much deeper, much more powerful payload inside.
Now, let's peel back that first layer and move into the drash, the story behind the story. Because to get the true power of Jacob's message, you have to understand the reputation of the man he names. This isn't just my uncle Laban. In the spiritual and political landscape of the ancient world, the name Laban carried immense weight. He wasn't just some conniving father-in-law, he was a legend, a terrifying one. Right, so let's be clear, this is not just your difficult uncle from family dinner. Laban's very name, which means white, hints at this pure, shining facade hiding a deeply corrupt core, you know? a whitewashed tomb. The Zohar, which is the foundational text of Jewish mysticism, is even more explicit. It does not pull punches. It calls him a Karsha, a master sorcerer. It says he learned his dark arts from the mountains of the east, which is a direct, chilling link to the place where the fallen angels Azza and Aziel were said to be bound, teaching forbidden magic to humanity. So this wasn't just a tough boss or a tricky negotiator. Laban was the world's greatest master of deception, an occult powerhouse who spent 2 decades trying to cheat, manipulate, and spiritually drain Jacob at every single turn.
So with that in mind, let's reread the message. When Jacob says, "With Laban I have sojourned," the subtext is absolutely screaming. He's not saying, "I lived with him." What he's really saying is, "I went into the lion's den. I faced the arch-sorcerer of Aram, the master of illusion and manipulation on his home turf for 20 years, and I walked out with my family, my wealth, and most importantly, my soul intact. I prevailed." This is no longer a simple report. It's a resume. It's a declaration of a power level that Esau cannot even begin to comprehend.
And this brings us to the deepest level, the sod, the secret. Here, inside the heart of the orchard, the message transforms from a clever boast into a conscious act of cosmic engineering. This is where we get to see the actual mechanics of spiritual psychological warfare. Jacob is not just recounting his past to intimidate Esau. He is actively using the energy of his past victory to reconfigure the spiritual dynamics of his present danger.
Let's use a modern tech analogy to really get this. Think of Jacob's message like he's broadcasting a high-level security credential. Imagine 2 rival state-sponsored hacking groups. Before Group B can launch a massive brute force attack, the leader of Group A sends a simple coded message that says, "I just spent the last year inside the central servers of the NSA and I came out completely undetected." Now that message isn't a threat, it's a demonstration of capability. It tells Group B, "Hey, your brute force tools are primitive compared to the sophisticated, multi-layered systems I've already beaten. An attack would be futile and a total waste of your resources." Jacob is doing exactly this, but on a spiritual plane. So the logic of this spiritual attack is so crucial. First, Jacob states the association. "I was with Laban," invoking the name of a feared occult power, a name that resonates with a very specific kind of subtle, dangerous energy. Second, he implies dominance. The very fact that he's here, free, wealthy, and sending this message proves he wasn't destroyed by Laban, he overcame him. And third, he neutralizes Esau's threat before it can even manifest. The implicit conclusion is just dripping. If the master of subtle, serpentine, magical power couldn't defeat me with his intricate webs of illusion, what in the world makes you think your 400 men and your direct physical power stand a chance? He induces fear not with a threat of force, but by demonstrating a higher perception of reality. And this whole thing just brilliantly illustrates the 2 fundamental opposing forces that Jacob had to master to become Israel. Laban represents a cold, manipulative power. It's the power of deception, of illusion, the twisting of reality through words and magic. It's serpentine. Esau, on the other hand, represents hot, direct power. It's brute force, raw physical might, the world of action and immediate confrontation. To become whole, to become the central pillar of a new nation, Jacob had to prove his mastery over both of these imbalanced energies. He had to learn to navigate the labyrinth before he could face the Minotaur. Now let's map this onto the cosmic blueprint of the Sephirot, the divine emanations that structure all of reality. Laban, whose name means white, represents the energy of Chesed, loving-kindness, expansion, benevolence, but in a totally distorted, corrupted state. It's kindness twisted into manipulation, a white light that doesn't illuminate, but actually blinds with deception. Esau, who is called Adom, or red, is the embodiment of raw, untempered gevura, strength, judgment, severity. It's pure power, but without compassion. And who stands right between them? Jacob. He represents Tiferet, beauty, harmony, balance, and truth, Emet. His entire life mission is to integrate the white of Chesed and the red of Gevura, purifying them of their imbalances and weaving them into a harmonious whole. But how does this message actually do this? I mean, how does a spoken sentence have this much power? Well, this is where we have to understand the Kabbalistic concept of dibor, or speech. In this worldview, speech is not just communication. Every word, every sentence is an act of creation, a tool for cosmic engineering. As the Zohar teaches, the sound of our voice, the intention behind our words, literally ascends and impacts the upper worlds, restructuring the flow of spiritual energy.
So when Jacob speaks these 5 words, he isn't just talking to Esau's messengers. He is making a declaration in the upper realms, projecting his consciousness and reconfiguring the spiritual energies all around him. He is using his voice to project the harmonized power of Tiferet to neutralize the raw, unbalanced energies of both distorted Chesed and Ra Gevura.
You know, the numbers here tell their own story, and it all kicks off with the number 2. This entire conflict, this whole spiritual curriculum for Jacob, is built on a fundamental duality. He faced 2 primary adversaries, Laban and Esau. But they aren't just people. They are archetypes of the 2 fundamental forces of imbalance that must be integrated for wholeness to be achieved. Love without judgment on one side and judgment without love on the other. It's the primordial duality that really every soul has to learn to harmonize. So from that duality, we move to the number 3. Jacob is the 3rd patriarch, and that is no accident of birth order. It is a statement of cosmic architecture. Abraham embodied the Sephirah of Chesed, pure loving kindness. His son Isaac embodied Gevura, strength and judgment. Jacob, as Tiferet, is the 3rd pillar, the one who stands between them, harmonizing the energies of his father and grandfather to complete the foundational, stable structure of our people, a structure built on balance.
And what does that perfected harmony build? It builds the number 12. From this place of perfected balance, having integrated the forces of Laban and Esau within himself, Jacob establishes the 12 tribes. And 12 is the number of perfected, stable structure in the physical world. It's the blueprint for a balanced society, a system where all the different energies, all the different personality types and callings can work together in a complex, functional harmony, just as Jacob himself learned to do with the opposing forces that confronted him.
And finally, we arrive at the number 13. Now, with 12 sons and 1 daughter Dinah, Jacob's family totals 13. But even more profoundly, 13 is the numerical value, the gematria, of the Hebrew word echad, which means 1. This is the ultimate goal. The entire journey, from the 2 adversaries, through the 3 patriarchal pillars to the 12 tribes, it's all about this one thing, demonstrating how to take the duality of conflict and integrate it into a state of ultimate unity and oneness with the divine. It is the final destination of the spiritual path.
So this is an incredible cosmic drama, right? A masterclass in spiritual strategy and psychological warfare. It's fascinating. But the real power of this teaching, of any of these teachings, lies in its application. How do we translate this from an ancient text into a practical tool for the challenges that we face right now? How do we use the Laban message in our own lives?
Let's break it down with 2 analogies. First, you've got the video game version. Imagine you've just spent weeks defeating the final boss in some super tricky puzzle and magic-based level. It required strategy, patience, intelligence. Then you enter the next level, which is just a straightforward brawling arena, and you send a message ahead to the big dumb troll boss that says, "I'm the one who just outsmarted the sorcerer of the shadows." The troll boss, who only understands hitting things with a club, is going to hesitate. He'll think, wait, if this player beat a challenge I can't even comprehend, my simple club might not be enough. Your reputation precedes you and it diffuses the fight. Okay, now for the cosmic engineering version, it's about consciously articulating your past victories, not as boasts, but as affirmations of your own power. It's about identifying a past challenge that required immense subtlety, resilience, and wisdom, your personal Laban, and realizing that the inner strength you built in overcoming it is a tangible spiritual asset. It becomes a tool, a credential, that you can mentally and spiritually broadcast when you're facing a more direct, brute force Esau threat in your life, whether that's a difficult boss, a financial crisis, or an internal battle with your own fear.
So the crucial takeaway here is this. Your past struggles are not scars you need to hide. They are credentials. Your resilience is a resume of your soul's journey. Your survival is a source of immense tangible power. The very act of having navigated complex, manipulative, or emotionally draining situations in your past has equipped you with a level of mastery that can absolutely neutralize the direct, forceful threats in your present. You have already beaten the harder boss.
And this brings us to the final and I think the most important question, which is for you. I want you to take a moment and just reflect on this. What is the Laban in your life that you have already overcome? What was that complex, draining, deceptive challenge that you survived? It could be a toxic work environment, a difficult family dynamic, a period of deep confusion or self-doubt. Identify it. Honor the incredible strength that took you to get through it. And now ask yourself, how can the articulation of that victory, even just to yourself, become the weapon, the credential you need to face the direct, brute force Esau that stands before you today.
Thank you for joining us for this complete journey through the Pardes. We hope these ancient truths help you and your family improve your own dimensions this week. If you enjoyed this full chapter deep dive, please like, subscribe, and share which part of the journey touched your soul in the comments. We'll see you in the next chapter.